People, Deluded, I'm back again. Now, I thought I'd offer my thoughts on a couple of young players, and to be honest, I'm keen to see them next season in the sense that, of course, I'm still watching them this season and that, but I'm keen to see how they evolve next season. So I thought I would speak about a couple. First, I'm going to speak about Joao Lopez. I don't think I've spoken about him. I do speak about him, but I don't think I've spoken about him enough for some of you guys. As you know, 16-year-old, came from Barcelona, fullback. That's always going to get a lot of attention because he's going from a team like Barcelona to us. People are always going to try and hear what he's on, what he's doing, how he's getting on, and things like that. For the fact of him leaving Barcelona. Obviously, Cesc Fabregas came from Barcelona to Arsenal and he actually went back, but you saw how his career worked out. So it's always going to be a well-publicised move. Obviously, look at Ignacy Miguel, Fran Merida, John Toro, and there's not been too many positive examples. Of course, we can't not mention Hector Bellerin. So, yeah, for me, people need to be easy. He's a first-year scholar. He's still adapting, and if apologies for that, people. And in fact, away from actual football, people need to remember he's 16, growing up wherever he grew up in Barcelona, in Spain, sorry, whether that was in Catalonia or elsewhere, I'm not sure, but it might have been similar to London, it might have been completely different. So for a young 16-year-old going from two, although Spain and England aren't exactly the worlds apart, going from that environment to 16 years of age, his family might have come with him, but more or less you're alone, new teammates, new team, new training, even things like using buses and TFL. It's just a new walk of life, so he's had to adapt to a lot for a 16-year-old. That's why I commend him. He's shown great bravery to leave his nation and come to England and Arsenal. He's had to adapt to a lot, the culture, the food, even simple things like communication, especially, you got to remember he's a fullback, even simple things like Manon. I'm not saying he won't understand this because clearly he probably does understand English. What I mean is by the cultural difference. Spanish players might not panic, or one thing might mean another, or he might just have to adapt to certain sort of mentalities and things. So we need to probably wait till next season where he's a second-year scholar, where you see the best of him because he's adapted, he's had that transition period. We also got to remember he's 16, first-year scholar. He's still adapting physically as well. So we need to be patient with him. For me, again, I watched the under-18s. I'm not a coach, obviously, and I don't know anyone connected, but for me, I'd say he's probably the second-choice fullback at this time at that level. Swanson seems to be getting the edge there, and he's not an actual fullback, but he's more experienced. He seems to be nailed down that position. So the next step for Joao is obviously to step up into the next season as a second-year scholar, obviously to cement that position as his own, and then go on to under 23s and possibly first team, because there's a space for a left back. He's Spanish like the manager. This coaching staff and whatnot have to have eyes on him on top of everything I've previously said. I think he's got big potential, man. I think his strength, he can improve a lot defensively. I think he could learn to concentrate for many periods and just little things like side on, showing people outside when you're supposed to, inside when you're inside, doing things consistently. He's got the potential, but just if he could improve a bit of them things. His strengths for me at the moment, from what I've seen, appear to be going forward. For me, he looks a tiny bit like Jordi Alba, the way he moves, man. When he gets going, neat 1-2s, decent set-piece delivery. You all saw the goal against West Ham. Very much the modern-day fullback, and I am very excited about him. We've got to take time. We've got to relax. Like I said, first-year scholar, still adapting not only to the country and the new team, but he's still growing physically, people. And everybody grows and develops at different physical rates. So next season, when he's adapted, got to know his teammates, had a feel for Arsenal for a year, I think we'll see the best of him and hopefully step up into the under-23s as quickly as possible, man. I really think he's got a lot of potential. Again, potential is just potential. I'm not here to say this, that and the other. I'm not here to say he's got world-class talent or whatnot, but I think we've got a potential player for the future in Joao Lopez, and I like him a lot, man. And he's 16. He's not going to be the finished article. So if he just keeps it going, the world's his oyster, to be fair with you, man. If he just irons out a few edges, he could be a good player, man. Obviously, next season, we've got a lot of scholarships. Admittedly, I'm not sure of their actual ages because they always get this stuff mixed up. But you've got Malcolm Elowabi, you can play on the left and the right. Very quick winger, very positive. Really got a lot of time for him. And I know he's played for Holland and a couple other... and I think played for England at youth level. I can't be sure, but I'm sure he's eligible for all of them. And a couple other nations. Really like him, man. I'm not here to say these players are the next this, that and the other, but I really like him. Really keen to see him next season as a first-year scholar, if I am correct. Obviously, we've seen Yunus Musa, and we've also seen Miguel Aziz. For me, very keen to see both of them, man. Monsa, he can do it all, man. I think I've seen him play out wide and he's done well there. Probably a centrally based player in the future. Really like what I see from him, man. He can take people on, he can dribble, good balance, can hold on to the ball, can play with his head up, can keep things ticking in midfield, can just little positive skills and little tricks I'm seeing from him. Obviously, he's featured quite a few times for the under-18s now, so he's not exactly a secret. Keen to see him as a first-year scholar rather than a schoolboy, training week in, week out, and with our FA Youth Cup as well. With that being said, you can't mention him and not mention Miguel Aziz. For me, he's very graceful, man. Keeps things ticking, always looking forward, always sees the picture in midfield before it's happened, man. Very good continuation player. Keeps things moving. Very good balance. Can play under pressure. Can play when he's being pressed when there's hardly any space. Very cultured player. Got a lot of time for him, man. I really like what I see from him generally this season. Really liked how he played against Southampton, and I actually liked his cameo off the bench against Swansea as well. So I'm keen to see him. Keen to see Kiddo Hart-Taylor. He's obviously featured against Villa, and I'm sure on a couple of occasions at under-18s level, despite being a schoolboy. He played against Bournemouth behind closed doors, although I wasn't there. Positive traits from him, man. He can take people on, go down the left-hand side, come inside, can develop a bit physically as well, but he looks someone I like the look of as well, man. You've obviously got a couple of, you've got Daniel, the fullback, forgive me, I can't remember his last name. I'm so sure he played for the under-16s against Greenwood, but you've got him at fullback. You've got a couple, I'll do a separate vid on a couple of them, but you've got a couple first-year scholars that I'm keen to see step up. I'm obviously keen to see Greenwood next season. For me, as a first-year scholar, he's been on fire, man. Ball-footed, scored some free kicks, scored some poaching efforts, scored some wonderful team moves. The next step for him is obviously he's still developing, and you've got to remember he's 16. He's still adjusting to actually training and playing football on a first-time basis. But I want to see him potentially step up into the under-23s. He's played a couple of positions at the moment. He seems to be nailing down, if he's not playing in a 2, playing on the right-hand side. Keen to see where he ends up long term. He can play in a couple of positions for me and excel there. And I'm keen to see him as a second-year scholar when the likes of Trey Coyle, who of recent has been playing at under-18s level, John Jules, who's primarily with the under-23s but was building fitness here, and the rest of them, and a couple other older players move on. So Greenwood he already takes responsibility and has authority, but seems to be the more of the flag bearer, the one I'm going to look at and ask more questions of, sort of thing. Keen to see him step up into the under-23s. I'm so sure he's got mini minutes. I call them mini minutes, hardly any, but he's making inroads. But we'll see how that goes. Also as well, Balogun. Now, Balogun, for me, we've got an interesting battle in regards to our 3 young strikers in Tyrese, John Jules, Eddie Nketiah and Balogun. It's a good little battle. If all 3 remain at the club and no one goes on loan, I'm keen to see how the club manage game time for them at under-23s level. Obviously for squad depth, Nketiah and maybe John Jules will possibly be involved in the first team. But Balogun, for me, the man knows how to score goals, born to score goals. He's obviously signed a new deal, scoring week in, week out for the under-18s, more or less, getting tiny minutes off the bench for the 23s, but you want to see him step up there. If you was to ask me to name the pecking order at Arsenal at this moment in time, April the 1st and this morning, I would probably say, give or take, Lacazette, Aubameyang. Danny Wells is leaving and is injured at this moment in time, but Wells in terms of more of a senior figure. Then it would be Nketiah as 4th choice, Tyrese, John Jules, possibly Balogun, and then him, give or take, Greenwood. So you see the competition and what needs to happen. So I'm keen to see Balogun step up into the under-23s, which will have to, because I don't think he'll be eligible at under-18s level next season. And I think he'll make the step up without a doubt. Lastly is Trey Coyle. For me, Trey Coyle, you obviously saw a couple seasons ago, before he turned scholar, broke out as a schoolboy, destroying teams. Obviously, when he turned scholar, he's had some injuries, and that's probably led to sometimes being inconsistent, but the ability is there. For me, he's obviously playing on the 23s and doing quite well, but I want to see him be one of the Joe Willockses, the Eddie Nketiahs, in that week in, week out, they're banging it, they're playing. The ability is there. You saw him score a hat-trick against Swansea. You see him turn it on all the time, man. FA Youth Cup against Northampton, just busting skills out for fun. I think his role, for me, he can play out wide and he excel out there, but I think his future is the 10 sort of position for me now anyways, people. The ability is there, man. The ability is there. It's just the consistency is there. It's just about playing consistently to that high level, so you're so good you can't be ignored by Unai Emery. It's not playing within themselves, but this is what I mean by you need to take that next step up to really bust yourself in the thoughts of Unai Emery, because if you remember the season, Iwobi got chances week in, week out, whether it was the Stoke hat-trick, whether it was in the youth gen, whatever game he was playing, you knew that was the Iwobi show. He was scoring goals and playing to a greater standard. It's too good to ignore, and I think that needs to be the case with a lot of these players. You have to be too good to ignore, sort of thing. Coyle can do it, but he needs to step up, and obviously next season is a big one for him, to be fair with you. I think he's got the ability. He's shown it, man. He scored a free kick on the weekend against Swansea. He scores all sorts of goals. It's just, I know he's got it. It's just about doing that 24/7, so I'm keen to see him as an under-23. Well, he already is under-23s, but you get what I'm saying next season, man. The guy's got ability, man. He really got ability. Whether it's here or elsewhere, I think he's going to have a future. I think he's a top young player, man, in my opinion. I'm obviously keen to see Alfie Matthews get minutes as a second-year scholar. You lot know Josh Martin's obviously left and gone to Norwich, but I'm a fan of Alfie Matthews. He can play a couple of attacking positions. I like his balance. I like his passing range. I like his positivity, man. He works his socks off. He's not a prima donna in that he walks around the place. He runs until he can't run no more, man. And to be honest, I'm not sure when his heart rate monitor probably decreases when he stops playing football. He covers a lot of ground, in my opinion. Keen to see him as a second-year scholar with, obviously, a lot of people that are not eligible at this level anymore. He still will be. Keen to see him get more minutes, great authority within the side, together with Greenwood and the first-year scholars that I've spoken about to come online, to be fair with you. Keen to obviously see Ben Cotter or Matt Smith, how they step up into the under-23s on a full-time basis. Or they can. They're eligible to that. I'm keen to see them do that, is what I mean, because they've both been playing superbly for under-18s, in my opinion. But yeah, man, that's just a couple thoughts in regards to next season, man, to be fair with you. Obviously, I'm keen to see the fight between Tyrese, John Jules, Balogun and Eddie Nketiah the most. But for now, people, deluded, I'm out.